Contractor job costing management software. Managing job costs is actually a discipline in your business. The software, it's just a scoreboard. The best job costing management system actually doesn't start with software. It starts with a process that you build. By the end of this video, you're going to know what Contractor job costing management software should do, also the things that it's probably not going to do for you, and 3 things that must be in place in order for you to be able to properly integrate that software into the business to eliminate the chaos. I'm laughing right now in the world of sports. I'm not going to tell you the team, but it's interesting. It's in the sport of Major League Baseball. And there are a couple of teams that are on a spending spree right now. And there's one particular team that spends and spends and spends and spends. They either have the number 1 or the number 2 payroll in the major leagues right now, and they are in dead last. They lose just about every game. What happened? Well, they bought all the accoutrements. They bought all the analytics. They bought all the coaches, all the players. They bought all the things. Their facilities are extraordinary. They just don't implement any of it. They just kind of show up and expect that the ethos of what they've paid for is going to solve the problem that they have. And yet, there are major league teams that have the smallest payrolls, but the best culture, the best training, the best methodologies, that all of a sudden they're leading the league right now. In short, here's what I want you to hear as a contractor business owner. The software, it's a support, but it's not the thing. We have made the software the thing, and because of it, we've started to get a little lazy around the process that will make the thing great. All right, so if you go out and look at the market, you go down to any Build Expo or you go to a builder show or something like that, you're going to be inundated with booths that are offering you software, a variety of software, project management software, CRMs, marketing software, it doesn't matter what it is. And when you go into the software, you start to look around and you're like, wow, that's a really cool feature. And they show you another feature. In fact, they're going to show you 67 different features. And what's interesting is 63 of those you don't even need. But we're so wowed by them that we end up buying them thinking that's going to be the smoking gun. That one thing is going to solve our problems. In fact, we think in our business we have a software problem, or we have a marketing problem, or we have a sales problem, or an operations problem. And you don't have any of that. What you have is a process problem. See, here's what software can do for you. Software can track numbers, it can flag variances, it can do analytics, it can give you deltas between what's estimated and what's actual. It can do all of those calculation things that any spreadsheet or anything else can do. And it can do it at a high level, especially with AI now. You can get a lot of analytics done with AI or with software. But here's what software can't do. The process. Can't build that for you. That's yours. The process that's unique to you, that's not the job of software. The job of software is to pull through the process. It's to actually help you implement the process that you've already built. So there are 3 primary things that must exist before you go out to the market to bring in a software that's going to help you with your job costing activities. But before we start, let's get a working definition of job costing. I think it'd be super helpful. So in order to do a proper job cost, we're going to take contract value. We're going to subtract cost of goods sold, which are largely impacted by what we call the slime or subcontractors' labor, material, and equipment. So those 4 things there kind of make up our job cost that we're going to subtract out of that. Once we have our contract value, subtract job cost, then we get our gross profit. And from gross profit, we still need to subtract the overhead. Now, once we have our overhead subtracted, those are things like fixed costs on how to run the business, payroll, rent, internet, all those sorts of things. That helps us to understand better the net income of that particular project. So this is a job costing calculation, but what does job costing tell us? In short, was the job profitable or was the job not profitable? And every contractor owner should want to know the answer to that question, because behind the answer to that question are the answers to so many other questions that you're curious about. Do we hire that person? Do we not hire that person? Do we open this new location? Do we not open this new location? Are we profitable in macro with the whole business, or are we not? We can start to uncover that with basic job costing. So in order to job cost, first we need to have the process of job costing laid out. Now we can do that with something called the systems mindset. The systems mindset says the next time you do a thing, capture it like it's the last time you'll ever do it. So if you've never done a job cost before, then just follow this outline. Write down your contract value that you should actually show in the estimate. And then from the contract value, subtract your cost of goods. And if you don't know what's in that, then think through subcontractors, labor, material, equipment, and all that. You add those things up, subtract it out. That'll give you your gross profit. And you follow this all the way down the line. Now, once you have this, go do it on an actual job. While you're doing it, I want you to capture it, document it, record it, screen capture it. Pick your phone up. I don't care how you document it. I want you to document it and capture it. So that's step number 1 in understanding how to use software with the idea of job costing. Before we ever get to the software, we've got to get to the documentation and the process documentation of that software. Now, in order to do that, once we have the documented process, that thing needs to go into a home. So I want you to consider a tool that we call our Master Process Roadmap. It's broken down into 4 core systems: marketing, sales, ops, and admin. Now, this is a job costing process. It could go into your sales, it could go into your operations, it could go into your administration. I don't really care. Let's just put it in admin and accounting since it has to do with numbers. And so that's one little job costing process. I'll put JC right here so you can see that. Well, there's going to be another 10 or 100 administrative processes. There's going to be 100 operating processes. There's going to be 10 or 20 sales processes, etc., all the way down the line. And so before I go any further, I want to draw your attention to a link I have in the description below. And it is a powerful video that'll walk you completely through the Master Process Roadmap and also the 4 foundational cornerstones of every business. It will teach you a master course in how to build a system for a construction business. If you're a construction business owner, you need to watch that at the end of this video. It'll give you greater context on where the job costing sits. And also my video, by the way, all these systems, I've got custom videos. We've got hundreds of videos around these issues. So make sure you go all throughout my channel once you get done with that masterclass. So we've built one process, but that's just one process. It's just one element of the body, and we need to understand where in the body that fits. So once we have that job costing process documented and captured, recorded in some form, now what we can do is we can take it to the team and begin to train. Think about this: military commands or sports teams. If they're not playing a game or fighting a battle, what are they doing? They're training. And yet in business, and particularly in construction businesses, we might document a process, usually not, but we might, and then it just sort of sits there and we get frustrated. And here's what we say: well, I told them. How long ago? 6 months ago, one time, and I just screamed it? Okay, well maybe that's why they didn't get it. Instead, what we want to do is we want to train with what we call RPMs of great training: repetition, predictability, and meaning. And that's what leads us to the repeat. But before we can ever repeat and implement, we actually have to go train this. And before we can train it, we have to go document what that process looks like. Now, let's encapsulate this within software. A lot of times, as I mentioned, you go out thinking software is going to solve your problem, and all it does is exacerbate what already exists. If you think about it, it's kind of like marriage. So you got 2 people that are in a relationship before, and they're like, wow, I think this could work out. Why don't we get married? And then they think marriage is going to solve it. There's jealousy, there's whatever, all this stuff. Hey, if we just get married, all of that will go away. No. Marriage is jet fuel for what already exists. And so if there's disruption already, well, all marriage is going to do is be a magnifying glass to that disruption. And the same holds true for your business. And software is that way. Any problems that already exist, when you buy software, all it's going to do is exacerbate those problems. But any foundational processes that already exist, what it will do is it will automate those processes. So software can be very helpful, but that's why I say none of this is a software issue. This is a process issue. So here's what I want you to do. Anytime that you get frustrated with project management software, I want you to remember a couple things. Number one, remember I told you this. Hey Scott, what's your favorite project management software? My response, whichever one you'll use. That's it. They're all pretty good. But the problem is a lot of times we don't have the processes to feed them. Garbage in, garbage out. If we don't give it anything to work with, it's not going to give us anything back that's helpful. But if all we do is feed it with a bunch of nonsense, it's going to feed us back with nonsense and create more chaos. We don't want it to do that. So, in order for you to get into software, here's my encouragement to you. Start with process. Whether it's job costing process, whether it's the permit pulling process, whether it's how to update your social media process, I don't care what it is. Document, capture the process so that that process can now be fed into the software, and your software can start to automate it and pick up the speed so you're spending less time and getting more information around it. Let me give you a tip before you go buy software. If you can do a 5 to 10 minute exercise, write out that list of everything you want software to solve for you. Then you can have a reasonable conversation, and then you can build a reasonable onboarding. That's the other little side pro tip. Anytime you do buy a piece of software, don't rely on their onboarding. You create your own onboarding because it's your business that's onboarding their software. It's not the software onboarding you. Very important, and a little pro tip to be able to do that. Make sure you go click on that link below, because I want you working on your entire construction business and just seeing job costing as a piece of that so you understand where it fits within the Master Process Roadmap. Why? Because running a construction business is hard, it's chaotic, and we want you to be liberated from that chaos so you can make time for the things that matter most.